Hi everybody, my name is Kim and welcome back to Bookmarks and Breadsticks. Welcome back to Bookmarks and Breadsticks. If you're new to my channel, I like to focus on everything in the food writing, food book space, specifically food memoirs, food fiction, food world travel, and etc. And today I'm here to talk to you about a memoir. But not just any memoir. It is a memoir from dual perspectives, both of the owners of The Gray, a beautiful restaurant in Savannah, Georgia, that is a restored Greyhound bus station. So the book is called Black, White, and the Gray, the story of an unexpected friendship and a beloved restaurant. I actually buddy read this with Amanda at the Curly Reader this month. Sorry, the light got super harsh. Let's see if we can do something about it. So Black, White, and the Gray is co-written by the two founders and co-owners of The Gray. Mashama Bailey, a Black female chef raised in the South for her childhood who then grew up in Queens, and Jono Morisano, a white, formerly media executive who grew up in Staten Island with roots in Italy. So I actually first learned about The Gray through an episode of Chef's Table on Netflix that focused on The Gray and Mashama Bailey. I loved that episode of The Gray. I found the imagery and I found Savannah beautiful, and I've never been to Savannah. I live in the United States, but I've never been there. And I found her story beautiful as a chef who wanted to find her voice, elevate Southern cuisine, and her role and how it feels to be a Black woman working at what used to be a segregated Greyhound bus station. It was a beautiful story, and I will try and insert a clip or two in a minute. We'll see if YouTube copyrights it. I'm trying, Netflix and the world, I'm trying to use this for educational purposes. So let me show you a clip.
Mashama's restaurant lives in a formerly segregated bus station.
In the back, there's the colored waiting room. You can't help to be humbled by that kind of history.
Editing Kim will tell you whether or not you've seen a clip at this point. That 1 hour episode of Chef's Table really blew my mind, and I really wanted to know more about Mashama Bailey and this restaurant. In that episode of Chef's Table, I have to say that Jono really only has 1 to 2 minutes of screen time as the co-owner. It's a moment where you see Mashama feeding him, because that's part of what their friendship is, but that's it. Black, White, and the Gray, while a dual memoir, really is more of an 80-20 split that leans heavily on Jono's voice more than Mashama's. This was one of my most anticipated reads for 2021. I bought it the day it came out, and I was really excited that Amanda wanted to buddy read this with me. And unfortunately, we both did not have a good experience with this book. And there are a couple different reasons why, and I want to be careful how I break them down, because the story of The Gray, the origin story of The Gray, is beautiful. The idea that Jono took this segregated bus station and turned it into a restaurant, and specifically wanted to work with a Black chef, a Black female chef, I think was admirable, and is admirable, current, present tense. Unfortunately, because this is narrated and split over an 80-20, we get a lot of Jono's point of view. And there are times where this book feels insincere. And I know that that's not Jono's intent. You can tell while reading this book, he wants to do good in the world. He worked in New York City his whole life. He built a really great career there, and later in his life, his wife and he bought a house in Savannah and really fell in love with the space. And he wanted to, retire down there. He wanted to build a new life. Let's call it his midlife crisis down in Georgia. Savannah. But Jono really wanted to write this book. And in the prologue, you learn very, very early on, Mashama didn't want to write this book. She is the executive chef and co-owner. She had a lot to do, and she didn't want to write and talk about this. And it came to a point where Jono had written an entire draft, shown it to his editor, and it wasn't well received. And then Mashama did write some comments in the book, and that early draft was not well received. And what it feels like to me, and I'm going to steal a quote or saying from Amanda, is that it feels like Mashama's inserts could have been footnotes. They are so sparse at times. And I'm going to hold up the book, and I'm not sure it's going to come up on the screen. But do you see how these fonts, we go from regular font to bold font, and actually the font types actually changed? That is the dual points of view and the dual voices. And as a reader, it was a little confusing. There are times where it's from Jono's perspective, and then he's having dialogues with Mashama in his space, his text, and then we switch to a comment from Mashama, from her voice, and it just got confusing, I would say. Also, it's a minor thing, but can you look at how high up that heading is compared to the top of the book? That formatting drove me insane. It drove me insane the entire book. I'm sorry. I know it's like such a finicky thing, but it was very, very distracting for me. Super distracting. So, again, to recap my problem so far. 1, formatting, the physical book, the formatting, the margins, and second, the imbalance in voices. And because of that imbalance in voices, it does feel slightly insincere. It also feels slightly white savior-ish. And I know that's not Jono's intent. And it really was just so unfortunate because on a positive, it is a fast read. It reads really well. Like, you can just get through this book very quickly. But it felt like Jono wrote this book, and I don't know if it was a money grab. I think he sincerely believes there's a good story here that people need to know about. But Mashama's comments often... Mashama's comments are the tip of the iceberg of her mentioning somewhere in the book that she's a little bit Black Power. There are just the hints of race relations, the current times, the current tragedies and injustice and inequality happening in America. Black Lives Matters. As I'm filming this, Derek, one day ago, Derek Chauvin was found guilty on all 3 counts for murdering George Floyd. There is a lot that Mashama's voice could have brought to this book, and she feels very much like a reluctant participant. And it's in her right if she doesn't want to talk. If she didn't want to write this book, and I think she did it for Jono's sake, and I recognize again, like, the lighting is not great. I'm sorry I'm like half in shadow. Post-production me is gonna hate this. Let's see. Is this any more consistent? No, not really. I guess, sorry guys, you're just gonna have to deal with it. So what was I saying? The very tip of the iceberg when it came to Black Power. In the epilogue, there are moments where they talk about the impact of COVID-19. And I just wanted more. This truth, the truth being that this restaurant exists, that it's co-owned by a Black female chef, is so current and is a story that should be told right now. But if 1 out of 2 of your owners, and I'd be so bold to say the most important voice, is a reluctant participant, it just drags down the book. I was just so disappointed because I wanted to love this. I could tell Amanda wanted to love this. And when the book was over, I was like, Amanda, really, go watch the episode of Chef's Table because that is what made me fall in love with this story. And I wanted to learn more about it. I was dying for this book. I was so excited because I love the episode of Chef's Table so much. And thankfully, gosh, this lighting stinks, man. I am so sorry, everyone. Is this better? Is this better? Will I stay in focus? Who knows? Who knows? It's like... All right, whatever. I'm just so grumpy. I had some validation that Amanda did enjoy the episode of Chef's Table about Mashama and the Gray. I am so thoroughly disappointed in this book. Uneven pacing, uneven share of voice from the 2 narrators. I had such higher expectations for it, and it really let me down. It's gonna be on the list of most disappointing reads I have this year. But to be very clear, that doesn't mean I don't think you shouldn't go support The Grey. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a lot of respect for this restaurant. I still want you to go watch the episode of Chef's Table, but at this point, skip the book and go watch an episode of Chef's Table, unfortunately. Yeah, and also it's always such a bummer when my goal of 2021 was to have a lot of buddy reads, and I really was, you always want, when people are trying your area or your genre for the first time, you really want people to like the books that you pick. And I was just like, oh no, Amanda's never going to read nonfiction again, or especially food writing. That's not true. She definitely did not say that. I was projecting my insecurities. But I am bummed because I was so excited. I went out and bought this book. I really, really, really wanted to love it. And yeah, I just didn't. I don't do star ratings. It's just not my thing, but I know Amanda probably gave this a 2. That's how disappointed she was as well. So unfortunately, that is my not so stellar review of Black, White, and the Grey. I do highly endorse the episode of Chef's Table that focuses on the Grey and Chef Mashama Bailey. If you're new to my channel, I would love for you to hit like and subscribe below and be part of my bookish family. I post content on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I do have one more buddy read scheduled for the month of May, where we will be reading the book Sour Hearts. If you're interested in food writing and nonfiction and you're looking for a buddy read, I am more than happy to join in. Even if it's a book I've read before, I will reread it, just so I can have more friends explore this amazingly diverse and rich genre. So let me know in the comments below. What is the most disappointing read that you had so high on your anticipated list and it just let you down? Have you heard of The Grey? Have you heard of Chef Mashama Bailey? Have you seen that episode of Chef's Table? If not, really, go watch it. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Stay safe, wear a mask. Sorry again for the weird lighting. The sun's going down. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.